I'm going to tell you stories of growing up Aboriginal in Australia. It was an anthology edited by Dr. Anita Hayes in 2018. This book comprises many real stories written by people growing up Aboriginal in Australia, which help us to recognize the diverse lives of First Nations people. They are first-person stories, so you can really understand the people from Aboriginal communities as individuals, knowing what they have gone through. In this presentation, I will discuss the issues to exclusion faced by them by referring to examples in this book. Charles Darwin University acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting and pays respect to elders both past and present, and extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people. The first feature that I found in this book is that in the table of content, the majority of authors who tell stories have Anglo-Saxon surnames. I read that many of them have European heritage, such as English, Irish, German, but the reasons of this underrepresentation of Aboriginal people without European heritage is unknown to me. Why didn't they contact Dr. Anila Hayes to share their stories? Do they have difficulties in English literacy? These questions deserve our attention. As Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people were in the past often portrayed as primitive and backward, current-day deficit discourse is influenced by these negative race-based stereotypes. When people reproduce deficit discourse, they often have good intentions but are not fully aware about it. One case in the book is the experience of Claria Jenkins in the chapter of What's Like. Whenever she got a reward from school, her friend told her that, "Oh, you just got that because you are Aboriginal." There are also other comments from teachers like, "You are pretty for an Aboriginal," or "You are smart for an Aboriginal." Given the mistakes of deficit discourse the teachers demonstrated, teachers need to develop by examples the principles of social justice and equity requested by the Code of Ethics for Northern Territory teachers. The deficit discourse is both problematic and dangerous, and I will explain why and how to address this issue in the written response. Identity issues has been talked about many times in this book. Authors are either not so confident with their Aboriginal identity or confused by it. The idea of too dark to be white or not dark enough to be Aboriginal has been emphasized by many authors. Melina Mugula Williams in the chapter of the Grey mentioned her idea of the Grey answer. After being judged by Untold Times, she finally came up with an idea of Grey answer. The Grey answer is an Aboriginal child born with a mixed heritage being equally proud of it all. Based on the Grey answer, she no longer felt ashamed by her Aboriginal pride. The similar experience is also shared by Leah Dudley in the chapter of Growing Up Beige and Sienna G. Tower in the chapter of Finding My Belonging. Some authors have described that they pretended to not be Aboriginal or were told to hide their Aboriginal identity. In the chapter of A Story from My Life, William Russell were told by a friend, "Hey, you are fair-skinned enough to get away with being white." In the chapter of Easter, 1969, Katie Brain's father asked her to pretend to be Black Irish because her father told her that some people thought Aboriginal blood had something wrong with them, and if something goes wrong, they will take your kids away. There are also other cases of pretending to be Fijian, Hawaiian, etc. According to the Alice Springs Declaration on Education Goals for All Young Australians, the Australian education system aims to help all young Australians become confident and creative individuals. However, this goal is not achieved at all by referring these cases that some Aboriginal people had to feel confused and insecure by their Aboriginal identity when they grow up. By the end of the presentation, I'd like to quote the words from two authors of the book, who are Kerry Reid Gilbert and Dorian Nelson, to conclude my thinking, as I have a deep empathy with what they said. When people say to me, "Your mob live in the past," I say to them, "No, the past lives in us." Because if I can stand in front of you and talk about the segregations and apartheid that I have experienced in my own country, it can't be the past because I'm very much living. As Aboriginal people, we may never have the material wealth of our fellow Australians, but I believe by recording our stories, we leave behind a wealth of knowledge and a rich and important legacy for our future generations. Young people will know their identity and cultural connections to this country and be proud to work towards making a significant contribution to the destiny of their people. Thank you. This is a book that all Australians should read. The issues in this book are also what we face in reality. It develops empathy and understanding with Aboriginal people, makes us know them as individual persons rather than a figure or token, which favorably serves for reconciliation.